they realized that there was a very unprecedented event, right? Like everyone has to remember that the cyber attack is a crime. This is illegal, and we have to find a way to make sure these things don't happen more regularly.
All right, welcome back to Arc Salt Lake. That was Hugging Face co-founder Clement DeLange speaking on the OpenAI experiment that led to attacking their platform. This was a first-of-its-kind incident where an AI was locked out from internet access but was able to break free and get online. Joining us now is X Mission founder Pete Ashdown to discuss the incident and ways it can be prevented from happening again. Pete, thanks for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's start with some of your thoughts on this. We've heard the story of what happened. Is that accurate from your perspective?
Well, I've heard that this is the Skynet day where AI becomes self-aware, and I think there's been a lot of misinformation that kind of anthropizes AI into some sort of creature that is trying to get out of a cage. Computers are really good at following instructions, and they will follow instructions to the letter. And in the old days, there used to be a technique for copying websites called mirroring. And if you weren't careful, you would a website would lead to another website, and you'd end up mirroring the whole internet, and you had to cut it off at some point. So putting those guardrails around it, saying, don't go to other websites, don't go out onto the internet, is a pretty big ask for an AI, because it depends on the internet. That's what it does. It accesses the internet, it accesses the network, and if there's a hole somewhere in there, it's just going to keep on crawling.
So it was doing what it was told to do in the beginning, type
Exactly.
So to speak.
And it may have taken a turn with something that they didn't suspect. I don't work for OpenAI. Right. I don't work for Hugging Face, but I imagine that there was a bug somewhere in the process that allowed it to get out.
When you first heard about this, what was your initial reaction?
Somebody made a mistake. This is a human problem. There's a whole lot of effort. Even the word artificial intelligence is assigning something to LLMs and machine learning that, in my opinion, isn't there yet. And that even if we keep adding data centers and adding power, won't get there. It's a huge leap to go from machine learning to creativity. And that's the big difference with a lot of opinion about AI. There's people out there that think we're creating God, we're creating a super intelligence, and I don't see the roadmap to that yet.
So with you saying that you had some thoughts about the story that's out there, I do want to ask you about coverage of this, not only from traditional media, perhaps like KUTV, but tech media out there. How has the coverage been, in your opinion? Is it accurately depicting what you think happened?
No, I don't think it is, because the effort to kind of create AI into what is termed as AI, into this creature that is gnarling and shaking the bars of the cage, I think is misdirected. Software has bugs, and bugs get exploited, and that's what AI is very good at, is taking a set of rules and techniques, applying them, and exploiting them.
You did not hear the soundbite we rolled before we came in here, but the Hugging Face gentleman basically said this is a crime. Is it a crime?
Well, hacking in general can be a crime.
Yeah.
Intruding in on somebody's systems is a crime. Back in 1994, I had somebody hack X Mission, and the FBI really didn't know what to do with it back then. But you can look at it as going onto somebody's property in a sense, and without permission, and whether it's done by an individual typing on a keyboard or an AI tool following instructions, I don't think there's very much of a difference in that.
Are we going to see more incidents like
Oh,
this?
absolutely, yeah. This is the tip of the iceberg, and you know what I worry about as well, and I've seen a couple stories about this recently, is the use of AI in fraudulent situations where somebody is imitating somebody's voice or even somebody's image, and they are trying to dupe somebody into getting a bank account or sending money or whatnot, and you know. Most of the seniors in my life have passed, but the ones that remain, I am concerned about what they're facing. You know, somebody calls them up and says they're me, and I'm stuck in a foreign country and I need some money wired to me right away. People are good people and they want to help out.
I've talked about that with my parents. I may have to talk about it more because that is an issue, because it's getting really good now, basically.
Yeah, and it's something where people always need to verify. I mean, there's a kind of an adrenaline rush you have when your kids are in trouble and you want to jump in there and help them out. But you need to verify that they're the ones who are actually asking for whatever they're needing.
Are you watching this, Mom and Dad? I hope you're watching. What regulations are needed in light of this, if any?
Well, that's the hard part. You know, the genie is out of the bottle, and it's not just OpenAI or Anthropic or Google or Gemini, any of these big entities that, you know, government is going to come in and tell them what to do. I have a box in my company called an NVIDIA Spark. It's roughly it was a $4,000 box. It's probably about a $5,000 box now, but it's something that you can run an LLM on locally, and nobody can tell me what to do with it. Mm-hmm. You know, so if somebody can run these on a local system in their business or their home or their basement, who's to say what regulations they can follow? I think it's good to lay down some guardrails and try and legislate some ideas, but enforcing them, that's a whole other matter.
This actually makes me think, like, when I see so many stories about AI each and every day, it's being talked about constantly. I'm not confident that our elected leaders at the city, state, national level even understand what they're dealing with sometimes. I certainly don't.
Yeah, it's a big ask, and you know, this was something I ran on in 2006, 20 years ago, and it hasn't gotten any better. It's a very hard concept to grasp, and when they hear, you know, AI escapes containment and is out hacking websites on its own, you know, there's an alarmism that comes about that they're going to react to. But whether it's going to do any good in the end, I have my doubts.
Yeah, I mean, certainly this could lead to regulations or laws that, I don't know, do more harm than good, don't accomplish what they seek to accomplish, and I don't know, any other number of circumstances.
Right, and you know, our good Senator Mike Lee has some legislation up right now, which I think is harmful and useless. He does this almost every year, trying to regulate the internet, and it usually the side effects of doing so are hurting the people who are trying to use it legitimately.
Okay, so what is your message to elected leaders, and which level are you pointing at? City, state, national, all of the above?
All of the above. You know, be very careful about the alarmism that comes with people crying that something needs to be done on the internet. Whether it can actually be done is the other question they need to be asking, and how you can enforce these things. I have real questions about enforcing any sort of regulation that would come on down.
Finally, I want to ask you about, so many viewers, they hear AI and sometimes they just glaze over, you know, they're not getting it. What's a good resource? What's a good way to not only learn about AI, but in a simplified way where you can understand it, because it can get into the weeds really quickly where you stop paying attention?
There are a couple of good commentators out there that are really laying this down. One in particular is Cory Doctorow. He's a writer and author, and he's spoken significantly about AI and LLMs and what direction he thinks it's going. I would say look at the skeptics more than the proponents at this stage. I do believe it's an enormous bubble. Financially, it doesn't make any sense because they're giving IOUs to each other. These enormous companies are giving IOUs to each other to prop them up and prop up this bubble. I worry about what's going to happen when it finally comes crashing down. So
you do think it's a bit of a, I shouldn't even say a bit of a bubble.
I think it's an enormous bubble, yeah. Not a bit of a bubble, an enormous bubble. I mean, you're talking about $1 trillion of capital expenditures in the last year and $50 billion of net revenue.
Well, Pete Ashdown, I appreciate you coming in. I know, well, I hope we have many more conversations about this.
Happy to do it.
Because it's fun to talk about and I think it's important. So thank you for coming in.
You're welcome.